Our lives are laid out on a road of bumps, turns, struggles, and more. How do we respond? How do we endure adversity for learning and growth? I'm Aubrey Johnson, and we'll explore these questions and more on the road to rediscovery. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Road to Rediscovery. I'm your host, Aubrey Johnson. The Road to Rediscovery is about reflecting on life lessons to learn and grow from them, and of course, pay it forward and uplift others who are struggling through dark times. My special guest has worked in graphic design for 25 years. Then guess what? I'm sure you can guess. COVID hit. He leveraged his COVID layoff to rethink and realign with his true purpose. That resulted in him becoming the creator and founder of the Campfire Gentleman community, a personal development space designed to spark connection, clarity, and growth in the everyday lives of husbands and fathers. Here he shares practical tools and reflections for men wishing to lead well at home, live intentionally, and build a life that matters. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mr. Clay Garrett to the show. Clay, welcome to the show. It's so great to have you here, sir.
It's good to be here. Thanks for the intro.
Oh, no, absolutely. Thank you. We're excited to unpack this and just learn some great insights that men, quite frankly, a lot of men struggling with, how to be a significant patriarch to their family, whether it's a family and extended family, father, husband, and all those figures, for their house, right? And so, to me, that's very important. Family's a team, family's a unit, and I think all pieces must be working and functional, right, for this to be truly cohesive. So, Garrett, wanted to ask you, first off, let's start off with the time you had during the COVID layoff. Okay. I'm sure there were a lot of maybe epiphanies or discoveries that you have learned or come onto you during that time. What was the pivotal moment within that layoff, within that furlough, where you started to gravitate towards community building of this niche, men to be fathers, effective husbands, and so forth?
Well, it was kind of like looking back on it.
Yeah.
And so when COVID hit, I got laid off, like a lot of people.
Hmm.
And it hadn't actually kind of taken hold in the United States yet. And so
Yeah.
I worked in an industry that was affected by what was going on in China. And so I got laid off a little earlier than like COVID actually hit.
I see.
And
Yeah.
so there was this time frame, it was about 2 weeks,
Hmm.
where it was just business as usual. And I thought, I'm gonna get actually went down, did the usual things, I filed for unemployment,
Right.
and the person, the unemployment representative, they gave a big spiel, and at the end they give you it'll be 2 weeks to a month before you get your first, unemployment check.
Right.
And I told her, I remember vividly, I said, I just laughed and said, I'll have a job by then. I don't even need this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, then like I said, within 2 weeks, COVID hit. And, and at that point, and one thing I realized in the moment that this is going to be a long-term thing. Like it was
Yeah.
clearly I have lots of family members involved in schools. And so it was just like, they were letting me know, look, this is going to get shut down.
Yeah.
The kids are going to be home. This is going to be a long-term thing.
Mm.
And so I recognized in the moment that this could be a chance for me to do something a little different. And so I just thought, what kind of person gets 6 weeks? 6 months, 8 months, whatever, it turned out to be. It turned out to be a year, actually.
Yeah.
Like of just with your family with nothing to do. And you sort of like make your own purpose for a year. You make your own schedule. If the project's important to you, you get to make time for it now. And
That's right.
And so, like, in the moment, I realized all of that. And so I was doing things like, I was having sort of, slow mornings, hanging out with my wife,
Right.
eating breakfast, having coffee over in outside the garden, this sort
Yeah.
of stuff, and playing video games with my kids and all,
Mhm.
I was, my dad has a wood shop.
Mhm.
So he had just retired. And so I got to spend all this time with my dad as he, helping him do woodworking. I sort of reconnected with my brother, really not as much connected really with my brother in a way I never had before. And so we started hanging out and we became, instead of brothers, really became friends also at that point. And it's so as COVID eventually wound down, I got another job, and I told the potential, basically before the first interview, I told him, I sent him an email and said, "Hey, listen, uh, I'm not going to take this. It doesn't say in the job description this is part of the job, but I'm not taking this job unless there's a lot of flexibility. I'd prefer a hybrid situation, if not
Right. Right.
out remote position."
Mhm.
They were amenable to all that, and because I was just like, "Look, I've built this life that is important to me in a way that I didn't know was possible before, and I'm not going to give that up."
Right. Right.
So that is sort of the turning point for me personally was, uh, this realization that this life that I was had the opportunity to build that I never would have even realized was possible if COVID wouldn't have just stopped me in my tracks.
Right.
This is this I just too I can't give this up. It's too important to me.
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense, man. I mean, sometimes there's hidden blessings
Mhm.
in something that just seems so devastating, I mean, a global shutdown from a pandemic is devastating, but there's always that silver lining. There's always some sort of hidden blessing where it gives us an opportunity to rediscover, like rediscover the connection with our kids, rediscover just sobering, um, uh, beautiful mornings with
Mhm.
coffee with your spouse, and that is just absolutely incredible. And not only is it something you rediscover during such a devastating time, it's something that moving forward, to your point, that you are intentional on protecting,
Mhm.
right? That's really to me that's really something that you hold near and dear, that you refuse to be denied in continuing. You want to sustain that, right? And that sustains the quality of life for everyone under the roof. You were in a unique position based on your role in graphic design, it sounds like, where you had sort of a head start
Mhm.
from a supply chain or a supply and demand standpoint. You felt the impacts early,
Mhm.
so you got laid off early. While that may seem devastating, and it is, I mean, but you got a head start in in trying to realign and rediscover your true purpose and what you truly want to do, what really matters. um that's extraordinary, for sure, Clay. And with that, I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned connecting with your father, doing, working in his wood shop, connecting with your brother. Now you guys are, friends
Mhm.
and brothers. You did connections as a spouse, a husband, as a father. I mean, just all of those, and these are productive things to do when you're on such a lockdown, right? So wanted to know, because one thing I know as a husband and father, we're usually called upon to be present and engaging in our time with our spouses, with our children, yet at the same time, we have a responsibility to be fiercely protective and to provide as a provider, right? So does and I want to talk about Campfire Gentleman
Mhm.
from this springboard here. Does Campfire Gentleman lend itself to these types of conversations?
Oh, absolutely. That's kind of it. That's kind of what started it is, after all of this, I'd actually left that, that job, that I got after COVID,
Yeah.
and to start my own graphic design business.
Nice.
And I'm sure, like a lot of men, I have like these bouts of waking up at some odd hour of the night.
Yeah.
And it'll last a week or two, and then then it'll go away for a while. And so one of these nights, I was up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm in the kitchen, and my computer was in the dining room next to the kitchen, and so I just see the light sort of glowing from the screen,
Yeah.
and I go in there and sit down at it and just get this idea that I'm just gonna open a Google Doc and just write down everything that I can think of for a little while and see what comes out. And maybe if I can get it off my mind and get it onto paper, then maybe that'll help me sleep.
Right.
And so that's what I did. For about 10 minutes, I just wrote, as much as I could think of. And afterwards, I was just sort of looking over it, and there was a line in there that said, I like graphic design, but I've been doing it for, almost 25 years at this point.
Yeah.
And I would really like to do something that helped people.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of just sparked this idea of like, what does that even mean? Like,
Yeah.
what can I do to help people? What does
Yeah.
helping people even look like for me? And so I just, like I said, it was really exciting. And so I went to sleep, woke up the next morning, like super excited to just kind of think and reflect on what all that meant and what I could do going forward. And it just sort of morphed that I know that was the kids just happened to be home from school. So it was around Thanksgiving break.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I just really put a lot of thought and effort and exploration into that, really all the way through until early and probably January.
Gotcha.
And in January, it started to take shape as a newsletter
Okay.
because I wanted to talk about these things, like family and purpose and health and growth and simplicity, because that's the kind of stuff it was important to me.
Right.
And so it's like I can talk about these in a newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
And so that it kind of turned into, and actually what really sort of set me on the newsletter path was I liked reading newsletters, but none of them were exactly what I was looking for.
Right. Right.
They were if they weren't specifically business oriented, they were masquerading as something else, but they were really business oriented
Oh,
underneath.
sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's like, there's all these newsletters that hit pieces of what I like and
Mm-hmm.
what I want to talk about and what I want to read about, but nothing that just hits all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I'll make the newsletter that I want to read, and I'll just, hope there's someone else out there that's interested in these same things, because somebody's reading these books other than me, and we're reading, watching these podcasts and all this sort of stuff. And so,
Right.
uh, right, and so that's what happened. I started the newsletter. I had these themes that were important to me, and men responded. Like, surprisingly, like my plan, I launched it in May,
Okay.
but I did a month of build up before that, because I was like, this is going to be a tree falling in the woods. Like, no one's going to pay any attention to this.
Right. Right.
And it was, I think 50 guys got the first newsletter. And I
Oh,
was
that's
just like
great.
stunned that there was that many guys interested, and it just keeps on building.
Man, that's beautiful. From humble beginnings, right?
Hmm.
And it's a manifestation of um middle of the night thoughts, after dark thoughts,
Hmm.
that you happen to capture, and wisely happen to capture, so that you can hold on to that and build from that even during the waking hours. Man, that is yeah, that's absolutely tremendous. And to see the growth that you're having, and having men respond is wonderful, man. I mean, what are some of the common struggles or challenges that men may come up with, or talk about, or that you may talk about on the newsletter?
Well, I'll tell you, the email I get, or sometimes it's outright said in the emails that I get,
Yeah,
and a lot of times it's subtext. But these men do not feel like anyone is listening to them.
I got you. Okay.
And that is at least half the emails I get. You can, like I said, it's either outright or you can read into it that
Mhm.
they don't feel like, whether it's like both actually personally
Yep.
or in sort of a societal, scope, that no one really is listening to them and cares what they have to say, cares about the struggles they're going through.
Mm.
And so obviously, like these men feel like they're alone, but so many men are sending me these emails that they aren't alone. They're all feeling this way. And my original intention was not to create a community where like that, but it's clear, like it's becoming that. That is what is these men are looking for. Is
Yeah.
I'll reply to their email, and they're just so happy. Like all the time, they'll say, "Thank you for actually listening to me." Because a lot of
Well, that's
times
great.
they'll tell me some things going on in their lives, and I always feel inadequate to actually give advice to a situation that that seems so much more dire than what I've been through in my life. And so a lot of times I'll just say, "Man, it's amazing that you've made it through that and you still, have your such a good attitude, or you're still trying to grow and you're still trying to learn with all that happening in your life." And
Right.
just the fact that I listened and responded, uh I really get, I get a lot out of that, but clearly they do too.
Yeah, no, they certainly do. And they, I mean, it's so well received, them receiving the fact that you're listening, you're a soundboard, and are they looking for answers? Probably not. I mean, a lot of people aren't looking for answers. They just want to be heard. They want to be understood, and you are not only listening to them, but you're empathizing with them. You're practicing empathy, and it's genuine, because if
Mhm.
it's not genuine, it can be picked up in a big way. So these men are feeling your empathy and thoughtfulness in responding, to them, and they're feeling heard. So, uh, yeah, Clay, I have to commend you for just the work that you're doing. And there's a lot of work in putting together newsletters. I know I've put together newsletters in the past, okay, but equally or more, it takes more work to respond authentically, to feel and connect with these men, with the listeners, with the readers of your newsletter. It's very important, and it takes a lot of work in responding to them. And yeah, you're doing it, man. You're doing it. And so, um, at this point here, Clay, I want to talk about um, your five pillars, the five pillars to live by. And I'm sure this is discussed in your newsletters, as well as conversations that you may have with some of these men who respond to your newsletters. Unpack those five pillars for us.
Sure. It's a purpose, or family, purpose, growth, health, and simplicity. And then they're at least to me, they're in the order of importance. Like I always,
Yes.
like, for me personally, and for the men that read the newsletter, family is the thing that gives the rest of the things, the rest of the pillars, like meaning.
Yes. Yes.
It- And so your first, you find purpose through your family, and you grow for your family, you stay healthy for your family, and
That's right.
you cut out the noise of life so you can focus on your family. And so there was original, I joke, like, originally I had like 15 or 20 pillars,
Oh,
and
really?
I was right. It had this like pyramid shape, and it was super complicated. And I was like, no one's going to want to read this. This is, and I just, as I boiled it down, I realized, oh, this is, all of this is a family issue. All of this is a purpose issue. And so
Yeah.
when I got down to it, I was left with those five. And, I write a lot about, uh, I write a lot about family, purpose, and growth.
Yeah.
And I don't write, and I always see, like, I don't write as much. To be perfectly honest, I'm a little afraid about prescriptive health
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
telling people, what they should eat or how they should exercise or things like that. And so a lot of times my health is in sort of the responsibility to your family.
Mm,
And
okay.
so
I
how
see.
you owe your family, the best health you can.
Yeah.
Uh, and I always think of simplicity as like a filter to run all the other pillars through. So are things getting in the way of your family and your purpose and your health and your growth? And can you simplify that so that you can focus better on those things? And so that's a lot of what I do with the simplicity part is, like I said, filter things through it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, because you don't want to overcomplicate uh, what it takes or what it looks like to be healthy or to get healthy.
Mhm,
Don't want to overcomplicate, your role in the family pillar. Keeping things simple. I think simplicity was something we were brought back to as a true reminder when the pandemic struck.
mhm,
Right, we're at home. Okay, it's us,
mhm,
the family, with four walls. So we go back to a simpler time where, yeah, we can't just pick up and go out anywhere we want. Not right now, So, a lot of simpler things you do, like the video games with your
mhm.
son and the coffee with your wife and hanging out in the wood shop with your father and so forth. So,
Exactly.
yeah, I think simplicity where all the other pillars filter through completely makes sense. Completely makes sense. So, um, what type of example of a man in the role that we play as patriarch in the home, um, do or must we as men project that women expect of us, that our spouses expect of us?
I always think, at least personally, I always have this idea that, like, to my family and just to sort of society in large, my friends, just everything,
Yeah.
that part of my role as a man is just to make everything else easier for other people. And so, for instance, like I feel like it's my job to make it easier for my wife to come to me if she has an issue and we talk about it.
Right.
And if if my son or daughter is struggling at school, like it's my job to make it easy for us to have that conversation.
Right.
And
Right.
if a buddy wants to talk to me about the problem he's struggling with, I think,
Yeah.
if it's difficult to talk to me, I feel like I haven't done my job.
I see. So we as men don't want to put on a facade that we're not or that we're okay
Mhm.
during a time when we're not okay.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, no, I understand. I understand. And that's a paradigm shift, I think, from the past maybe 40 or 50 years, where the patriarch, the husband, the father, whether he was fine or not, had to be very stoic in that, you know, I'm doing great. Don't worry about me. Kids, stick to the books, stick to
Mhm.
those grades. Wife, yep, we'll continue to raise this family, and I'll provide and sick or not, I'm working, I'm providing, paying the bills. And just to have the facade of everything's being all right when really underneath we're not, and these days I think there's a shift to where we're invited to have the space to say we're not okay. Is that accurate?
Well, I absolutely, and I think also
Okay.
we have this tendency to look back at previous generations
Yeah.
and assume that they were doing it wrong instead of thinking they were doing what was necessary. And
Right.
so in some ways, I think the way, you know, the stereotypical way the man was, whenever the 50s or 4 whatever, like
Right.
there was some like utility in that just doesn't exist anymore. So there's no reason necessarily to be that way. And so does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So if I can just maybe say the inverse of that,
Mhm.
just to make sure I'm tracking you. If that's the case, then we can't say that our parents and grandparents and great grandparents did it right or wrong. They did what was needed or necessary for the time.
Yes, that's absolutely how I feel for the most part. Like,
Okay.
the world was just, yeah. I mean, if you hope that the world gets easier for everyone every
That's
generation,
right. That's
and
right.
so to look back at your grandfather and be like, well, he should have been more emotionally available. It's like, well, I mean, personally, my grandfather was a mechanic and then he worked on a farm from sun up to sundown. Like there just
Right.
wasn't a lot of room. Like there wasn't a lot of free time. There wasn't a lot of room to sit around, and
Right.
he was much more. I'm sure. I have no doubt. He was much more tired than I was on a regular basis.
Oh,
It
I'm
was,
sure. And food had to get put on the table, you know?
and so we have a
Yeah.
different opportunity now to that. I mean, there's never been people in general have never had more free time, which of course means men have never had more free time, and
Right.
so there's that time. You're hopefully most men aren't as exhausted as previous generations, and so they have the bandwidth to be emotionally available for their children and for their wives and even friends,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I kind of think of it like that it's just it was necessary before, it's not as necessary now, and so it makes sense to be more emotionally available and
Right.
focused on and all and everything. I mean, you can invest more in your relationships altogether because you just have more bandwidth. Most people do now, I feel like, than
Right. These
previous.
days than
Mhm.
previous generations, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it's the choice that we make of what we do with that time
Mhm.
that, to where we want to be as productive as possible in cultivating those relationships, being emotionally available to your point, and leverage that bandwidth, which we're blessed to have today.
Mhm.
Our ancestors in their time, may not have had that. So, yeah, if we use that to express that and be emotionally available, I think that moves the family in the right direction. And if every man does their part, it moves the world in a better direction. I would think we must do what's necessary to keep working on ourselves,
Mhm.
right? And I know this sounds cliche, but the latest buzzwords these days, I think, are show up, right? To
Mhm.
show up for our family, show up to our spouse, show up for our work, for our jobs and careers. Um, None of that's possible if we don't work on ourselves. And so, we talked about that as a spouse. Now I want to ask you as a father, I think it's important for our children to know, I think personally, and I, as a father, I've even pushed this, to know that we need to let our children know that, we don't always get it right. We make mistakes too. And, it's equally important that they know that we work on making ourselves better each day. I mean, after all, we're the leading example
Mhm.
for them, right? As an adult. So, tell us about how important it is in the overall cohesiveness of a family under one roof for your children to know that you're a work in progress just like they are. I mean, you're grown, they're growing up. It's pretty obvious they're growing up. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done on them. That's your job as a parent to guide them. But at the same time, even though you're grown, they must know that you're continuously working on yourself to become a better person.
Yeah, I've said sorry to my kids more than I ever thought I would before I became a dad.
Yeah, yeah.
I regularly tell them I'm sorry. I screwed that up. Uh I thought this would work and it didn't, whatever.
Mhm.
Just lots of you know,
Yeah,
and the same thing they'll say, "Hey, why did mom do this?" And I'll be like, "Well,
right.
because mom doesn't know everything. She's learning stuff just like you,
Yeah,
and so
uh-huh,
she didn't mess up on purpose. She thought that would
right.
work. And
Yeah.
just like kids, parents are wrong." And so
Mhm.
uh yes, I've said sorry to my kids a lot. I tell them I'm learning. And simple as they see me reading regularly,
Yeah,
and I have a planner journal thing that they see me writing in and reflect. I tell them I'm writing my day. I tell them how I felt about whatever happened this event during the day, and yeah, and we
You're reflecting.
yes, and we focus a lot. One thing I talk about with Campfire Gentleman was actually like a newsletter I wrote maybe last month, and it was about how you need to let go of this idea that anything should be easy and just be pleasantly surprised when it is.
I like that. Yes.
And a lot of damage is done with the expectation that something should have been easy, and when it's not, you get frustrated. But if you don't have that expectation to start with, you never get. I'm sure you still get, but you don't get as annoyed or
You're
frustrated or angry.
yeah, you're right. Yeah.
It's so like they'll come home, the kids come up with homework, and they'll be like, "I thought this was only going to take 30 minutes," and they're an hour into it, and I'm like, "Well, that shouldn't have been your attitude to start with. You need to."
Right.
And so that's a lot of, learning to almost learning to learn, if that makes, teaching them how to
Yeah.
learn, if that makes sense. Yeah. It's
Yeah. No, it does. And you've you made a good point on the virtue of mindset and perspective,
Mhm,
right? So, I mean, yeah, just teaching them that, hey, have a certain mindset when you're going into something, and relieve yourself of the expectation that something you're about to do is going to be easy.
mhm,
And if you do that and it's not easy, then you're not surprised.
mhm,
There's no disappointment, no surprise. It's what you expected. And like you said, you'll be pleasantly surprised
mhm,
when it is easy, right? So and that's a pleasant surprise to have, but you can't have that pleasant surprise if you're going into it thinking it's easy. In fact, you have the reverse, the disappointment when it's not easy. So
yes.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's one thing my kids, both of them, struggle with, is this idea that if if they really want to do something, it
Mhm.
should be fun all the time. Just and that's a hard lesson they're learning, that just
Yes.
because, this is something you really like, doesn't mean it's
Yes.
going to be easy the whole time.
Yeah, no, 100%. Couldn't agree more, and as parents, one thing we kind of learn, at least I've learned this as a father, is um there's different types of realities that we have to teach our kids or show our kids, right? One of them that you mentioned, we just talked about a minute ago, was the fact that we as parents, even though, we provide the boundaries for you and, what you can and can't do and guide you and so forth, um, we get things wrong too. And we don't do it on purpose. We get things wrong. We're still trying to improve ourselves, and we don't always get it right. And to me, that's a shot of reality, I think, that all parents should share with their children, because, they can go out in the world now knowing that, hey, it's not just kids that make mistakes.
Mhm,
It's, adults as well, and it sets them up for when they become adults and when they have children, that they know they're going to make mistakes too, because they were told from their parents when they were little. So that's one reality, one piece of reality. The other piece of reality is what you just mentioned, you know about anything we start to do or embark on doing, we should be having fun. So
mhm.
that's another kind of reality, I guess, we have to kind of help our or guide our children to discover, um, you know, where no, not everything you're going to do is going to be fun, especially as you get older. You're going to wish you were on the beach throwing a frisbee or football when you are getting up in the middle of December going to work, shoveling out of snow wherever you live, or if you live up north or something. Um, you'll be in one place wishing you were in another. I mean, that's the reality of it. It's not always going to be fun. So, um, uh, I think it's best for children to learn sooner than later. Otherwise, you have this kind of warped expectation, I guess, as you get older, that can kind of do more harm than good.
Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
another thing that we've
Uh-huh.
been trying to teach the kids is And it's one of those things you asked earlier about, about being a man
Yeah,
and another thing I really think is important about being a man. And so, I mean, you have to teach it, when
you do.
kids are young,
Yeah,
is the idea of responsibility.
yeah,
And it's one of those things that's really important to me. And I'm sure it was modeled by my dad in particular,
yeah.
uh, that if, like, first of all, you don't get to pick all of your responsibilities to start with,
Right,
like
right.
some responsibilities just get put on you,
Yep,
and you accept those just like the ones you wanted. You the accept the ones that you didn't ask for but are put on you. You
yep.
put just as much importance on those as the one you chose.
Oh, for
And
sure.
so there's plenty of responsibilities that I didn't ask for, but that's just what you do. And so
Yeah, you do that for sure. And me, I'm a hopeless optimist. To me, there's always that silver lining. The cup is always half full. And I say that, Clay, because in my view, responsibilities that are placed or put on you, or like put on me when I was younger, growing up, um, part of me felt like whoever or however the universe put the responsibility on me that I didn't ask for, there's something, either it's God telling me or it's the way the universe works, saying that I'm ready to take that responsibility. That's why, however it worked out in this world, that I got this, that I didn't ask for, you know, I'm going to take it as if I did ask for it, because someone determined somewhere, a higher power, that I was ready to take this on, if that makes sense.
oh, absolutely. I like that. And that my wife uses the phrase, cross to bear a lot. This is our cross to bear. This is my
Yeah.
cross to bear.
Hmm.
Uh, and that's kind of how I've always felt like this is my responsibility. And like I said, some of them I asked for and I'm happy I have. And some of them I wish I didn't. But like you said, a higher power has decided that I'm ready for it, or I'm going to learn something from it, or somebody's going to get something out of it,
Yes.
even if I don't.
Yes, another great point, Clay. There's something I'm to learn out of this, which is why it's given to me, right? Or someone else is going to benefit from this. That's part of the greater work that we don't see,
Mhm.
beyond our own horizon, right? Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, one of the things that I heard you mention, not in this discussion, but in just some stuff I've read earlier, was that there's a way, or you have this belief that uh, small daily choices can create long-term trust in the home. And I wanted to know if you can kind of break that down for us, and maybe give us an example of what that means, so that all the men listening here can kind of put that into practice.
Sure. One thing that me and my wife do regularly that's a very small practice, it takes 5 minutes sometimes,
Hmm.
is we have this it's called a temperature check, is actually what it's called, that we picked up from a marriage seminar that we went to at our local church.
Yeah.
And it is you just I think there's 5 or 6 questions, and you just trying to think of the first one was, what are you grateful for, is the first, is the first one.
Okay.
And so you just go back and forth about what you're grateful for,
Hmm.
what you're looking forward to that day.
Hmm.
Several, it's like I said, 5 or 6 of them, and it's like I said, it takes 5 minutes,
Hmm.
and uh, and so things like that. And uh, I have a schedule. I have a actually on my. I was talking about my planner earlier. On my planner, it's a quarterly planner.
Hmm.
I'll just pick a random day a month and put, buy my wife flowers. And so
Mm.
that's something small. Actually, I go to Target and the flowers are like $8, and I just
Yeah.
go grab some flowers, and
Hmm.
it surprises her every time because it's just different. Once a month, it's on a different day each month. And so there's no necessary schedule to it or whatever, but just
Right.
little things like that, like today, I had some. I mean, honestly, I was pretty busy. My wife called and she was like, "Can you bring me lunch?" And I was like, Oh yeah, I'll do it. Okay. You know, and
Yeah, yeah.
a small little thing. It took me 30 minutes to run and grab lunch and take it to her.
Mhm.
And if I could have easily been like, I got this thing I need to do.
Right, right.
But at the same time, at the top of those pillars is family, you know,
That's right.
and uh and so yeah, it's just like I said, these small daily things. With my kids, we started this I mean, very new tradition. We've been doing it about 2 weeks. That on days I pick them up from school, we go to the park for 30 minutes
Very nice.
and just to get outside.
Yep.
To We've got 6 or 8 parks in town, so we went to 3 of them
Mhm.
and just learning, you know, what they like at each one,
Yeah.
what just being, and it really is the point is to be outside.
Right, right.
And so like I said, these daily actions where, and eventually what happens is it becomes this routine that they expect that they miss, where if I forget that we need to go to the park, or I feel like, well, I got this thing that's more urgent than the park, so I need to do this instead. They'll
Yeah.
be like, "Are we not going to go to the park?" I'm like, "It's become a thing that that's created a relation, deepening
Yeah.
their relationship. These little things, 5 minutes, 30 minutes,
Oh man, and while they are small things for a few minutes, over time, especially when it becomes a habit and it's a routine, um, that stays with our
Mhm.
children, man, forever. I mean, when they become adults, it's something they hold near and dear as a memory in their childhood with you, and it's something they want to carry on with their children. So, I mean, just that small act blows up to that things that we see and know beyond that time, and things that we don't, you know, we've planted a seed, and it's those small actions like you mentioned.
And it's a lot easier to get my children to tell me about how their day was when we're
Yeah.
walking around a park as opposed to sitting in a car on the drive home.
Oh yeah, easy.
It just naturally comes out, and so you're getting that connection
Yeah.
that you were looking for. Because I asked, how was your day? It was fine. It was
Oh
good.
yeah.
Actually, I told them they can't say good, and so my son says fine, and my daughter says a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10.
Oh,
And
does
so I'm
she?
like,
Okay. Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
so much more to those park,
Yeah.
situations than
Yeah,
that.
you probably get a more open-ended, response in
Mhm,
how their day was, or maybe in some cases, it comes to you unsolicited,
mhm,
Yeah, man, that is awesome. These small things can just blow into just, family traditions and routines that are done from generation to generation.
mhm,
Uh, yeah, and planting that seed is the key for us as the patriarchs, whether it's a routine that we do with our spouse, or something we do with our children early on, right? So, yeah, I definitely have to commend you for those actions as well, Clay, and not just for the actions because you're demonstrating it as the example, but in conveying and
mhm.
communicating the importance of doing those things to other men around the world, in your newsletter and in your community.
And I always try to give them something actionable to take away, uh, because I could sort of reflect and pontificate all day long, but I'm like,
Sure.
but when I read a newsletter and someone does that, I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that? So
Yeah. Yeah.
I always try to come up with something like an actual, action they can take.
Yeah.
That's, like I said, relatively simple,
Yeah.
because there's so much complexity in the world, and I mean
Goodness.
complexity sounds good, but it's really hard to actually execute. Simple is much
Yeah.
easier to execute, obviously, and so
Yeah. Hence one of your pillars.
yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, yeah. And so, you're very clear in telling them the actionable or call to action that you may have in your newsletter, that they can apply in their lives with their families, right? With their spouse, with their children, with their coworkers, whatever the case may be. This is absolutely extraordinary. Campfire Gentleman, Clay, how can the listeners connect with you, learn more about you, follow you, and learn more about Campfire Gentleman?
Everything is at campfiregentleman.com.
Okay.
And that's a singular, as in a campfire gentleman.
Okay, gotcha.
And
AN. Okay.
yeah, and all the socials are the same thing.
Yeah.
But a newsletter is, you can sign up for the newsletter. You can see blog posts at campfiregentleman.com, and said that'll get you to an email you can send to me, and as I said, I'll read all of them and answer all of them. And nothing brings me more joy than reading emails and answering them from these men.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And you know what? Equally, joy is brought to them by your demonstration, telling them that they're being heard. They're being heard. Campfire Gentleman. We're going to make sure and have your socials as well as the web address all in the episode show notes so that the listeners can click on these, connect with you, follow you, subscribe to the newsletter, all the while listening to this wonderful conversation. Clay Garrett, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and unpacking the insights of the community you've built and important virtues and practices of a patriarch. Thank you again, Clay, for coming on the show. I hope we can stay in touch and maybe bring you on the show at a future date, sir.
Oh, that would be great. And thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure, man. We reciprocate. And hey, I want to thank all of you for tuning in and listening. And look, you may feel like this at times, but in our daily struggles and adversities, you're never alone. And hope is always around the corner. I humbly ask that you please share this show with someone you know, someone you love, who needs motivation, inspiration, and support. And you know, when it all comes down to it, we're all just roadies on this journey of life. But it sure feels good having you on the road with me. Thanks again for listening. We'll chat again soon. We really hope you enjoyed this episode of The Road to Rediscovery. We'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email at roadtorediscoverypodcast@gmail.com and leave us any questions or comments you may have.